Well, why don't we get started? Yeah. Hello, welcome to Gentle Harvest. I'm Venus Barratt. I am the chef and owner at the Warrenton Wellness Kitchen. It's in Old Town Warrenton, and my specialty is cooking for people with specific health issues. I got my start, we're cooking for people in cancer treatment. And it was through that process learned about the importance of clean, plant-based eating in order to get clients through not only before treatment, but after treatment and during as well, because that's when appetites drop, and it's a real challenge to get people to eat. So once I became known for that, though, I began to draw on other clients who needed to have services that might include preparing dairy-free, gluten-free, low-salt food for someone with chronic kidney disease. So my training started to delve more deeply into how we cook in a more healthy way for people with health issues. And so that's where I find myself in my kitchen cooking every day, is for people who not only just simply need gluten-free or dairy-free products to eat on a regular basis for lunch and dinner, but then I have people come in on a regular basis to talk to me about what they should eat while they are trying to lower their blood pressure. And so what I have been asked by Gentle Harvest to come in and talk with you about beans and pulses, and I'm happy to do so because this is the one food that I push on all of my customers and clients. I was actually pleasantly surprised to find out how many people actually do enjoy beans. I thought I was one of the only ones. My family's background is from the Caribbean and Latin America, so I do eat quite a lot of beans. But I admit that before you is a display, and I'd say probably half of them I've never heard of. So we have a somewhat resident expert on it to, if you have questions about them, we'll both try and answer your questions. I have to say that before Robert asked me to do this, I never referred to a bean or legume as a pulse. And so I myself had to go and look up and see what is the difference between the two, and found that all of the beans that I commonly referred to as legumes were not actually legumes. They're pulses. Your legume comes from the fresh plant, and it grows in a seed form in a pod, and it's the edible portion of that plant that is technically called a pulse, a legume, sorry. And then for everything else, that even if it's a fresh at the start, but then dried, it becomes a pulse. So the vast majority of what we are cooking today in our homes consists of pulses. It's hard for me to remember that, though, so forgive me if I continually refer to them as beans, because at the end of the day, when you walk into a grocery store, you're not going to ask them for pulses. It's not in our vocabulary just yet, but hopefully after today's class, you'll spread the word that this is really what it's about. It's about eating clean, healthy, non-GMO, organic ingredients every day. And if there's one thing that I learned from my clients, cooking for them, is talking with them about the importance of including at least 1 cup of beans in their diets every day. If you're not a big fan of beans, then that might be hard to do, but I think with a little bit of creativity, imagination, you might find yourself cooking with beans in ways that you never thought of. And they're not just a side dish, or they're not just meant to be mixed in rice. They can be incorporated into a salad, sprinkled on a salad, and as we eat them in Latin America, it's always on the side. There is a big difference between Caribbean cooking by region in general, but my family hails from Puerto Rico, and so when we are served beans, it is always on the side. It is never on top of rice. It's just a sin to do that because the bean is considered a separate item. You mix it as you go, but the proper way to do it for us is to put it on the side, and I continue to do that today. So let us talk about the growth of pulses just quickly. Not only do I encourage you to seek out clean, organic, non-GMO ingredients for all of your cooking, and that includes plant products as well as meat products, but pulses and legumes provide a tremendous amount of protein. They are it's a perfect food, and it's hard to find something that. So I have one client who is, she has high blood pressure, she's obese, she's a big meat eater. And I've been tasked not only to feed her husband, who has a liver transplant and who has a gastric bypass. She became ill just caring for him. And so in doing so, developed obesity and high blood pressure, and has been instructed by her physician to pretty much go 100% plant-based. And my task with that family is to convince the wife about the importance of eating substitutes for that meat in her diet. And so when she comes to pick up her meals, 75% of it is plant-based, and 50% of that consist of beans. They're high in protein, they stabilize blood sugar, they lower cholesterol, which is important for all of us. They possess a high level of plant protein, fibers and minerals like phosphorus and iron. They protect against heart disease, diabetes, all these things that plague us on a daily basis. America is in crisis when it comes to how we eat. And so my core mission, what's at the core perhaps of my business, is getting back to basics, the way we used to eat, and that is with simple, clean, whole ingredients that are non-GMO, organic, and full of nutrients. And the more nutrient dense, the better, because given the stress and activity that takes up our daily lives, we need to take care of our bodies. So, and also something about beans on the health front, just because I'm on it, is they have incredible anti-inflammatory properties. So it's just one of those things that if you just have a little bit of it every day, you will find yourselves helping your body cope with daily stresses, cleanse itself of toxins, and remove anything that might impede upon your ability to get well or to maintain good health. And then they curb the urge for sweets. But that doesn't mean that you can't indulge in sweets. And for that, we have sweets in front of you, so just to show you that you can still have your sweets and your beans at the same time. So I will talk, I guess I should start demonstrating something. Do you have any questions? You have recipes in front of you that I hope you'll take home with you and prepare. It's one of the things I do with my teenagers when they come in and learn about how to cook different foods from around the world, and they too have had to eat beans. So it's been a journey in terms of getting good quality whole ingredients into the mouths of people who come in, but the idea is to make sure that you can get the nutrients that you need. Let's talk about cooking beans before I start in. Yes?
I had a question.
Yes.
A lot of times cooking beans, you know, if you read packaging label and bags of dried beans, you'll see
Yes.
with the meat, right? Pork bone or...
Yes, you can do that, yes.
Yeah, you can do that, but what would you say?
I would say throw out, those usually come in with either a flavor packet too sometimes. Yeah. I would say avoid that package if you can, or if not, just throw away the flavor pack. I would, if you are looking for like a ham bone or ham flavor, I would then put in a nice clean, if you have a leftover ham bone from Thanksgiving, from a ham from Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, have your butcher section that off and save it in your freezer and throw it into the bean soup as you're preparing it, and it's going to be so much better for you.
So you wouldn't say the negative effects of the ham. is being offset by the positive effects of the pulses?
Well, I would say not, and that's because I'm one who will encourage that you eat a balanced meal, a balanced diet. I eat everything. I even have milkshakes. I had one yesterday. I did. Did anybody else have a milkshake? Because I did. And that's because part of mindful eating involves listening to your body. It sometimes will send you signals that you're needing more iron or you're needing more protein in your diet. Maybe you're low on energy. Maybe you're not sleeping well. So working with your physician or your dietitian or even your personal trainer at a gym if you have one, talking with them about what you're eating. I would say that if you have beans with a small bone that's just adding flavor to the broth, that is nothing compared to perhaps sitting down with a giant plate of ham and a leaf and a grape. So it's about moderation, and it's certainly about making sure that your plate on pretty much every day consists of plant material for the most part. Yeah, thank you. Anyone else?
How do you make it easier to digest?
Soaking. Soaking is one of the best ways to do it. Speaking of packaging for beans that you buy at the store, they generally will instruct you to soak them overnight. And that is certainly the best way to go about it if you are looking to improve the digestibility of them. And but soaking them and putting them in the refrigerator actually. So when they suggest you soak them overnight, you really want to do that in the refrigerator. But it eliminates the sugars from the beans that are really the tough thing to digest. But there are other ways to do that. Not everything needs to be soaked overnight. I am famous for the 2-minute boil, letting the beans soak for 2 minutes before you proceed with a recipe. Well, before you proceed with a recipe, you have to let it soak for perhaps an hour or two, but then you're off. And then the other method is the quick soak and then your Instapot. And I just discovered how great it is to use my Instapot for quickly softening beans to get them so that I could cook them right away. These beans that I prepared for you today, these I soaked overnight, and was hoping that they would come out looking better than they did. But what I enjoy about them is that they still have a lot of nice texture. We've gotten rid of the sugars, and we make sure that they can be cooked right away, which is what we're going to do with this recipe. It's a quick cook. Hi.
Soak in hot or cold water, does it matter?
When you're doing the quick method, you're dropping them into hot boiling water, letting them boil for 2 minutes, and then letting them sit covered. If you're soaking them overnight, they're in cold water.
Okay.
Yes. So I prefer that method, but it's time doesn't always allow. So I'm glad that we're able to move on recipes. And then the last quickest way to go about it, though, if you are faced with having to make something within 20 minutes and you have nothing but a can of beans, if that's what you prefer to do, if that's what your schedule allows, then do use canned beans. Cooks all over do the same. I try to eliminate as much sodium from diets as possible, so I try to avoid them. But if you're faced with using beans out of a can, make sure that they're organic, make sure that they have no salt added, and then you should also rinse them. Put them in a colander, rinse them thoroughly, squeeze them with a little bit of lemon to freshen them up, and then you can actually sprinkle those on a nice salad or have them along the side of cold fried chicken or something like that that's delicious that way.